Welcome back to TT Players. It's nighttime. You can't see Franklin. I apologize, but I understand that people want to learn Kano, and I love to talk about Kano. I learned Kano at the feet of the great Mo Bogsley. I was able to pilot Kano pretty successfully in those last Road to Nat seasons. Be able to get top seed in one event, third seed in the other event. Both times I had to forfeit. I couldn't actually play the top 8, so who knows. The one Road to Nationals I did okay was Icelander, where I was actually able to play the top 8. But I love Kano. And the first thing you need to know about Kano is there's a time and a place to play Kano. And it's not when everyone's talking about it. So if everyone's talking about Kano right now, now is probably not the time to play Kano. But that aside, I'm going to real quickly run through the Philippines national winner list here. I'm going to give my takes on why certain things are in there. I'm going to explain the base equipment to you. And then we're going to go over the base combo you need to understand in order to play Kano. And then next week, I'll give you some Kano gameplay videos because you don't have to twist my arm much to get me to talk about Kano. So at first, Kano has a really interesting hero ability, right? It's basically pitch a blue, look at the top card of your deck. If it's a non-attack action card, you may banish it. If you do, you may play it this turn as if it were an instant. That is absolutely busted. We all agree that is 100% busted. And because of that, you only got 30 life. 30 life goes real quick. You're not that far off from Blitz heroes. But that's okay. Because we're Kano, we're super explosive, and we run it down. So this is the equipment that I personally consider ubiquitous. I'm going to take it in every matchup, and we'll run through them real quick. Well, not every matchup. There are times where you put out Crucible, mainly for Wizard matches, but Crucible is basically one, use it. The next card you play this turn with an effect deals that much damage plus 1. Cool, right? We have a lot of cards that cost 2, right? We're going to pitch a blue, bump this up, pay for the 2, right? Pretty clean. Metacarpus Node. This is for the big combo turn, right? It's basically the same as Crucible. It's a triggered effect. You can pay 1, and when you do, it's going to bump it up by 1. So that allows us to pump something up by 2. 1 with Crucible, 1 for Metacarpus Node. That's important. That's how we get Wildfire to 6. We have the Ragamuffins hat. And I'm going to explain it, but it'll make sense when I show the combo later. But basically, we draw a card. We put a card from your hand on top of your deck, or top or bottom of your deck. Activate this if you only have 1 card in your hand. Why would it be important to put a card on top of your deck? Because Kano says, banish the top card of your deck. So if we can take a card from hand, put it on top of the deck, then we can banish it with the Kano and we can play it out, right? Basically gives us a second arsenal slot. Stormstriders allows us to play that arsenal slot, that aforementioned arsenal slot, as long as it's a wizard non-attack action, as though it were an instant. So we're trying to kill them on their turn. We're going to take a card from hand, put it on top of the deck. We're going to banish that with Kano and run it out. And then Stormstriders is going to be used to play out our card for Arsenal. So these are kind of the ubiquitous cards here. As we go through the deck, there are just a bunch of good cards, but the important combo cards are basically Aether Wildfire. This is going to do 4 damage to target opposing hero. If it's played during an opponent's turn until the end of turn, action of card effects that deal arcane damage instead deal that much damage plus X, where X is the damage dealt by Aether Wildfire. A couple important things to note here. This is all players. So in the wizard matchup, you can buff their spells as well. But this is the really important thing. We want Wildfire to come in for 6. We talked about how it comes in for 6. It needs to hit for 6. Because when it hits for 6, then any of these little piddly 0 for 1s, they suddenly hit for 7, right? 1 plus the 6 that the Wildfire did, right? So this is hitting for 7. That gets us to 13 damage done so far with those 2 cards, right? 6 for the Wildfire, 7 for the Prognosticate. And then Blazing says deal X damage to target hero, where X is the amount of arcane damage that you have dealt to that hero this turn. So we've dealt, right, 13, right, 7 from the Prog, 6 from the Wildfire. So this is going to deal 13 plus another 6 from the Wildfire itself, right? So then this here is going to deal 19. And again, I'll break it all down when the combo works, but the base combo is going to be Aether Wildfire for 6. A little cheap spell. We can use Zap. 0 for 1 becomes a 0 for 7. Gets us a 13 damage done. Blazing for 13, plus the amount of damage the Aether Wildfire did for 19. That gets us 32 points of damage on these 3 cards that we're playing. One of these is going to come from the hand. We're going to put it on top of the deck with Ragamuffin's hat. One of these is going to come from Arsenal. We're going to play it out with the Stormstriders. We need to get a 0 for 1 or a 1 for 2, or that's a 1 for 1, I'm sorry, a 1 for 2 or something off the top of the deck with basically a blind Kano. Doesn't have to be blind, but that's basically how the combo works. All right, let's run through the rest of the cards in the deck real quick. Tome of Aetherwind can do two things. It can buff your arcane spells. This allows Aether Wildfire to possibly come in for 8, which is ludicrous because every damage Aether Wildfire hits for basically does +3 that amount. 1 for the prog, or 1 for whatever spell comes next, and 2 for the blazing, right? 1 for the spell from before the blazing, and then 1 for the blazing itself getting the additional bonus. More likely, you're just going to draw 2 cards, though. Because every blue you draw allows us to run out an additional card, right? That was 32 damage with no arcane barrier for the 3 card. If we can possibly throw another 0 for 7 in there, right, we're adding another 14 damage. Aether Spindle is one of those things. Our normal game plan is block with 2 cards, present arcane damage on our turn, till we get them in threat range, they overextend and we kill them. So again, we pitch a blue to Crucible, gives us that +1. Aether Spindle then comes in for 5. They may be arcane barrier, who knows, maybe they don't, and then we get to opt. If we get to opt more than 4, that's phenomenal because we're shaping our hand, and that 5th card that we see can be the card that we know we're going to Kano. So a lot of value if we can hit that break point of going over the amount in our hand necessarily. Lessons in Lava, probably the 3rd most important card in the deck. You can use this to grab the Blazing Aether. It also just allows you to search. It's a great weathering card. It's just really good. Just a 1 for 3. You may search your deck for a wizard card that costs less than or equal to the amount of damage dealt by Lessons, reveal it, and then put it on top of the deck. Why is it great to put things on top of your deck? Well, with Kano, we're going to play those cards out. Sonic Boom, just a good value card, right? Comes in for 2. We pitch a blue, we stick, we boom, comes in for 4. We can possibly play the next wizard non-attack action we get off the top. Really good card. Tome of Findle is basically another Tome of Aetherwind, right? It's just going to draw us 2 cards. Occasionally, in longer games, if we're pitch stacking, we're actually going to play this out of Arsenal using Findles, or using our Findle's chess piece. I don't know why my brain's not working. Tunic, Findle Spring Tunic. We're going to gain 5 life, and then we're going to present some damage. But most of the time, this is just off the top. We have a bunch of blues, right? All the Kano decks are going to vary a little bit. This one's running 34 blues. I've seen them run up to 40. But a whole bunch of blues. You're going to have some number of 0 for 7 or 0 for 1s, right? Sorry, that's a bad example. We have Aether Dart, Prog, Sap, Zap. We're going to have some number of 1 for some amount of damage, right? That's Aether Quickening 1 for 2, Scalding Rain 1 for 2. We're going to have Sins, which is a 1 for 1. It can also deal with allies. It's kind of like a hedge into Dromai, though that matchup's horrible. We have Reverb at a 1 for 1. It allows us to play an additional card out. Aether Flare, which gives us like a mini wildfire effect, but it's basically just a 1 for 1. But we just basically need a lot of blues that also block for 3. Because remember, our base game plan is block with 2 cards, present a card in our turn. Block with 2 cards, present a card in our turn. Or you're 28 and you're overextended, we're going to go ahead and kill you. Potion is great. Doesn't obviously block for anything, but really, really valuable to get it down because it's almost an extra blue in your hand. And when we run through the sample of how the combo works, you'll understand the power of this. Eye of Ophidia is phenomenal because of the way it works. We're going to pitch the Eye of Ophidia to Kano, right? So we have the Kano, and then we're also going to have the opt, and we resolve the opt before we resolve the Kano. So we can see 2 cards. We can pick whether we like one of them for the top. If we don't like either, we put them both bottom. We blind Kano into it. But Eye of Ophidia, combining with that Kano hero ability, gives us a lot of depth. Gaze is a phenomenal card. Opt for 2. If you played another wizard non-attack action in this card, put Gaze onto your hand as it resolves. So if we Kano, flip a Gaze, if we're able to play something else out first, we can run the Gaze, opt 2, Gaze comes back to our hand, it's a blue, pitches perfectly for that Kano ability. Really good card. Potion of Deja Vu, it's a recurring theme. If we can manipulate and control what's on top of the deck, it's really, really powerful. Just really, really powerful. Okay, now we got our sideboard cards. This base is about 55 cards. We're going to bring 5 cards in. Aether Flare is another mini wildfire effect. I'm going to bring this in if I don't think they're going to respect Arcane Barrier. This is what I was running when Katsu and Road to National was really popular. When Lexi at the time was only running AB1, I was bringing this in. This isn't something I like to bring into like Bravo or Blue Line or Zeri, right? Those kind of decks that are going to respect the Arcane Barrier. I don't want to see Aether Flare. E-Strike was an interesting addition. I'm honestly not sure why they're running E-Strike. I assume it's to remove Thamai, but I'm really not sure why the E-Strike's in the deck. If you Kano into this, it just bonks you. So again, I don't understand why they have it in the deck, but I did want to cover this deck because this is what everyone's excited about. So I have no idea. If you know why they're running the E-Strikes, please let us know. Imperial Edict is a hedge against Oasis Respite. So if you think they're playing Oasis Respite, we might hit a pitch stack game. Because of the nature of Kano's ability, we hit our pitch stack really quickly. And basically, we're just trying to get this Edict out. On our turn, we're going to Edict. We're going to name Oasis Respite and hopefully also present some damage to at least get a card out of their hand. And then we're just going to blast through them, hopefully denying them that Oasis Respite or that Sand Cover, whatever we kind of have like identified that they've been squirreling in their arsenal for forever. Snapback, just a good value card. Just comes in for that sweet 1 for 3. Pairs really nicely with Waning Moon if we are running the Waning Moon, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Swell Tidings helps us go big over the top of people. We can send the Swell Tidings for 6. If they choose to take it, we're going to Ponder Token, which is pretty cool. But in general, just helps us get big, helps us go tall. Chain Lightning, you'll notice that Kano decks always have like 1 or 2 weird cards that don't really make sense. And I'm not saying Chain Lightning doesn't make sense, but there's a lot of like individualism and deck building out there for Kano, unlike some of the other decks. I think it's a really good card. Let's just play something else as an instant, similar effect to what we saw in Reverberate. Solid card. Alluvians are in for the Wizard Mirror, and basically we're bringing Alluvians and Waning Moon in if we think it's going to kind of be a longer, grindier thing. So Icelander and in the Kano Mirror, a lot of times you bring the Waning Moon. It really depends on how comfortable you are with it, but you can just get a lot of value from soaking the Arcane Barrier, sending that Waning Moon for 2 and 3 all the time. It's a lot of value. As far as the chess piece, if I'm going first and I think I'll make it to turn 3, I'd prefer the Tunic because it can block for 1. If I'm going second and I don't think I'll make it to turn 3, then I want the Spellfire Cloak because I want the immediate Arcane Barrier. Or excuse me, the immediate float pitch. I read Arcane Barrier. The Arcane Barrier doesn't even matter here because we're just going to run the Alluvians. So is the game going longer than 3 turns? I probably want the Spring Tunic. Is it going to be a quick and dirty game? Well, I might want the Spellfire Cloak. All right. I know without context that didn't make a ton of sense. I'm going to show you the combo now, and then hopefully this all pieces together. So let's jump over to TTS here. This is kind of the easiest way I can think to show this to you. And we have a hand here. Hopefully you can see it okay here. Excuse me. So we're running a pretty standard Kano loadout here, right? We have the Ragamuffin's Hat, Spellfire Cloak, Metacarpus Node, Storm Striders. We've whittled our opponent down. They're at like 29 life. They've overextended for whatever reasons. They have no cards in their hand. And we have an Aether Wildfire, 3 blues, and in Arsenal, we have the Lessons in Lava. So the way this is going to work, and again, it's a little weird here, so bear with me here. We are going to pay a blue, pitch for a Kano. We're going to pay a blue, pitch for a Kano. I'm going to pay a blue, which is going to get me a 2 float. Spin the Crucible. Going to allow, come on, I don't want to snap. Okay, I only have 1 card in my hand now, right? So I'm going to use the Ragamuffin's Hat. Draw a card, then put a card from my hand on top or bottom of my deck. Okay, I'm going to draw 1. It's a blue. We got lucky here, right? Crack the hat. Aether Wildfire comes back on top. All right, we can now let this stack resolve here, right? Because hat was right here. So hat's happened and resolved. Crucible resolved. So we have +1 to the next effect that deals arcane damage. Kano here can resolve. And we're going to take that card that's on top, and we have the ability to play it now. And look at that. It's an Aether Wildfire, right? We knew it was there. Cool. Let's hold priority before this last Kano resolves, and I'll get into why. And let's send this Aether Wildfire. So it's going to cost us 2 to cast, which takes our remaining float. I'm going to pitch this Zap to pay for the Metacarpus node here. Right? So then this is going to come in for 6 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Get out of here. 6 damage from the Aether Wildfire. 1 from the Crucible. 1 from the Metacarpus. 4 coming in for the Aether Wildfire. This resolves, they take 6. I'm then going to regain priority before this Kano. And I'm going to pop my Storm Striders, putting me down to 1 pitch. Play Lessons in Lava, taking my last pitch. Trigger Metacarpus node, and then in response to playing that, I'm going to crack my Spellfire Cloak or grab my Findle's Fintuic Tunic. So that's going to get me that one pitch that pays for the Metacarpus note here. That means Lessons is going to come in for normally 3, plus 6 from the Wildfire up to 9, plus 1 for the Metacarpus note here. This is going to crash in for 10. Does that make sense, everyone? 3 base, 6 from the Wildfire to 9, Metacarpus node trigger here to 10. And then I'm going to go ahead and resolve this effect. It says I may search my deck for a wizard card, which pitch less than the damage dealt by Lessons 11. Well, we dealt a ton of damage, and we have this Kano trigger here that we're activating on top of, because all of these are coming in at instant speed. So let's go ahead and let's grab something out of the deck here. And what I'm actually going to search for is that Blazing Aether. There we go. I found one real quick. And it says, right, reveal it, shuffle my deck, and put it on top. Okay, there's the Blazing Aether. Shuffle the deck, we put it on top, and now we let this Kano resolve. The Kano we used early because we had to get down to 1 card in our hand for the Ragamuffins. We let this Kano resolve. It's the Blazing Aether. It plays for 0. We go ahead and send this Blazing. I think I actually even have pitch left over, but that's okay. We just send the Blazing. Oh, no, we don't, because I paid for Metacarpus. Blazing is going to come for 10 and 6 for 16, right? Equal to the amount of arcane damage we've done this turn. Plus 6 more for the Wildfire. Right? So it does damage equal to what we've done, which is 16. And then Wildfire says on top of that, I'm going to do 6 more. So basically we double dip in this Wildfire. So this Blazing here crushes in for 22. And that means for our total damage this turn from a 5-card hand, right, is going to be 38 points of damage. Now, this is on the high end for a bunch of reasons, and I'll walk you through kind of the variance things that we hit, right? Obviously, like, I quote-unquote stacked this deck before we got started here. But we hit a blue off the Ragamuffins hat. If we don't hit a blue off the hat, it means we can't pay for a Metacarpus node here, and we can't pay for a Metacarpus node here. Well, depending on what color and pitch we end up with. So that is definitely less damage. Arcane Barrier from our opponent definitely impacts us here heavily as well. But this is the core combo. Again, our base turn is block with 2 cards, present damage in our turn. And when our opponent overreaches, maybe they're, did something in our turn. On this turn, they went like Scar for Scar. Well, not Scar for Scar. Maybe they went E-Strike, down a card to Wounded Bull. It's a Icelander list. So they 4-card hand us. They present 13 damage. That could be lethal. But in response on the layer of that Wounded Bull, we go ahead and we go off for this and we present 38. So obviously we could fight through some Arcane Barrier as well. I'm not going to throw that Arcane Barrier math. I hope that helped as a great high-level overview of how Kano works, what the base combo is, and why some of the cards are in the deck. I'll get some Kano gameplay videos up for you next week. But again, Blazing is the start of it. We want Blazing to crush in for as much as we can because it gives the bonus the rest of the way. Lessons is a cheeky way that we can pull out if we want full control, because we can send Lessons for our 2nd card. It allows us to grab that Blazing Aether for our 3rd card. If instead we had Blazing Aether in Arsenal, we would have to Kano a Zap or an Aether Dart or a Prog off the top, and this would come in for 7. And then the Blazing would come in for less. But again, Gravy Train scenario here is the Lessons. We search up the Blazing and we send the Blazing through. This is 38 damage. Normally I factor in about 30 damage, but again, it should be deterministic if you know what's going on, if you've monitored your pitch stack. So again, Kano is an incredibly fun deck. It's incredibly rewarding. I think the big things for Kano is know when to play Kano, and it's normally not when people are talking about it. It's when people aren't expecting it. It's when people aren't respecting the Arcane Barrier. Kano is one of those decks where there was an incredible amount of value in gold fishing. Sleeve up the deck, sit down with the deck, load the deck into Talishar, play it out, see if you can figure out ways to present the combo. Figure it out. Have your opponent attack for 8 every turn, right? No on-hits. Mock what you do. See if you can figure out the kill. See if you can find the kill. Kano is great if you love pitch stacking. Kano sees their pitch so quickly, and the Kano pitch stacks are incredibly rewarding. When you Wildfire to Sonic Boom to Blazing Aether, presenting like over 100 damage, it's an insanely fun turn, incredibly rewarding. When you end up like into like tome to boom, there's just so many great pitches you can go up with. one of the Kano Oldhim games, the old Fatigue Oldhim, was so fun, so rewarding. Oldhim tries to race you down, but they just can't really present enough damage. You're pitch stacking, you got a couple E-Pots and your Deja Vu out, and you just have these super explosive turns. So again, incredibly rewarding. The other great thing about Kano is, hey, if you're playing a lot of rounds and you want to make sure you have bathroom breaks and food breaks, Kano games are over in 10 minutes. You're going to have time to take your breaks, walk around, see how your friends are doing. So Kano, all in all, has been incredibly fun for me to play, incredibly rewarding. Hopefully this helped walking through the combo, Wildfire, Lessons, Blazing, or, again, Wildfire, any of the 0-1s to Blazing. That would be Blazing here, Aether Wildfire in our hand. All right, hopefully that all made sense. If you have any questions about Kano, let me know down in the comments. Again, shout out Mo Bogsley, who taught me how to play Kano. I really appreciate you, Mo. Fantastic player on Team Ascent. You can check out the Philippines winning deck list. I also have my deck list that I prefer. And if you look at Kano deck lists, they're all just a little bit different because, again, Kano specialists are a little weird. They all have their special twist on it. And I promise you some Kano gameplay videos next week. And until next time, everyone, cheers and happy gaming.